Okay, back when I started carnivore, I wish I had known some of these things. And I think these things are helpful for pretty much anyone considering a carnivore diet. And so the first thing I'd like to talk about is, while there certainly are differences between grass-finished beef and grain-finished beef, probably not enough to make a huge difference to most people's health. There was a 2022 study in Food Science of Animal Resources comparing the two types of beef in South Korea. Now, grass-finished beef had a lower amount of total fat, so there was a little leaner, and grass-finished beef had a higher percentage-wise of EPA, DHA. They also had slightly more omega-3s, but they noted that just a slightly larger portion of meat would get you the same amounts of omega-3s, EPA, and DHA. Also, grain-finished beef had a higher amount of monounsaturated fat, which theoretically helps to prevent cardiovascular disease. Now, beef in different regions of Korea, Hanwoo for one, had more EPA and DHA in the grain-finished versus the grass-finished beef. Now, they also noted that consumers preferred the texture and flavor of one versus the other, with grain-fed more consistently being the one that was tender, fattier, and generally more preferred.
Ribeye, grain-fed, grass-fed, very different. You can tell that. Size-wise, fat, we've talked about that, marbling, fat cover, color of fat, color of meat, all that. You can see the differences there.
In the thousands upon thousands and thousands and thousands now, people in the carnivore community, I can't find a significant difference in outcomes between those people that are just going to Costco eating their beef or those people eating purely grass-finished beef. Now, there are reasons to consume, certainly support local ranchers. I'm a big proponent of that. I think it's a great idea to do that. You may want to prefer someone that has a holistic style of grazing. There are potentially some environmental benefits for that, but from a health standpoint, we just don't have good data showing that one is, much more preferable than the other. And there, of course, there are people that will say for their particular individual self, one works better than the other, but on a population scale, I just don't have the information to make that type of claim. Okay, organ meats, not essential on a carnivore diet. There's a lot of people that will say that, you have to consume them to get all your RDA worth of vitamins and minerals. There are some people that say that's the only way you can be optimal. And again, many of those people also happen to have organ pill supplement companies, and so there's a serious conflict of interest there. I personally have seen people do fine on either of them. There's a paper in the Journal of Animals published in 2019 that evaluated the nutrient content of organs versus regular meat. And what they found was, by looking at cattle, calves, and lamb, that the organs were found to be higher in trace elements, which is pretty clear. Protein was about the same as a piece of steak, but the fat was much lower in the organs. Exception to that would be things like brains and bone marrow, which tend to be particularly fatty. In practice, eating the organ doesn't seem to make a significant difference, again, across a population. There are individuals that will say that I feel better or I feel worse eating those things. So if you like them and they treat you well, go for it. There's nothing wrong with them. If you don't like it and don't feel compelled like you have to do that, that is a misnomer or misconception rather that people have about this because there's people out there pushing this really hard. Now, hydration and electrolytes, again, this is an important concept. A carnivore diet often will put people in ketosis depending upon how frequently you eat, how much meat you eat, how much fat you consume. Insulin will often drop because of this, and as that occurs, our kidneys will not retain as much sodium, and we'll tend to lose sodium and lose water. Now, we can lose some minerals in this sort of situation, so sometimes people will have to develop cramping. There's potentially issues with sodium, potassium, or magnesium. You use some salt in the beginning. You can use different types of salt. Many of them are fine. Some people like to use things like sea salts or Celtic gray salts, or Redmond Real Salt's another company that provides a pretty nice salt. But there's a lot of salts that can help that. The other thing that's important about hydration is particularly around, like, if you're going to do athletic performance, we perform better when our muscles are hydrated. And again, hydration means fluid, often in the context of electrolytes. Remember, if we just consume straight water without any electrolytes in there, we tend to just get rid of it very quickly. And so the electrolytes make us hang on to the water a little better. Now, some people can overconsume that and they end up with swelling. So there's a balance there. Now, the other thing, overeating fats can cause GI distress. Now, you see people out there talking about eating sticks of butter and butter every day and, all this added fat, whether it's tallow or lots of fatty meat. Many people do well with that, but there's a lot of people where that can overwhelm their system. And it takes a while to adapt to that. And so typically what you see is maybe some level of, indigestion, reflux, bloating, diarrhea in many cases, because all that fat just kind of pushes through our system. So it's important to realize it.
Here's the thing. At the end of that, it all goes away.
Right.
I mean, at the end of 2 weeks, my body adjusted, and now it's not a problem at all.
Really?
Yeah, not a problem at all.
Now, even if you're missing a gallbladder, you can still consume fat on a carnivore diet. You just have to be mindful about how much you consume in one particular setting. Now, it is important to minimize cravings. And so satiety mechanisms, it takes a while to adjust to these things. So eating enough is one of the things that I think is one of the most important things. Many people undereat on a carnivore diet. They come to it with expectations of weight loss, and they intentionally restrict how much food they eat. And then what happens is they develop these sort of, very strong cravings, and then they fall off the diet, and then they, go back to their typical maybe binging type behavior, which is a problem. So again, how much should you eat? Eat enough so you don't want that stuff. Avoiding junky carbs, sugar, processed food is going to help you. And so the way to do that is to consume an adequate amount of meat and enough fat in there so that you don't want that stuff. It's pretty kind of a simple concept, but something that a lot of people take a while to figure out. So these 5 concepts are among many that are important to understand before starting a carnivore diet. I hope you guys found this interesting. Let me know what your experiences are starting, for those that have successfully done or unsuccessfully. What were the problems that you ran into, and how did you address them? All right, guys, you guys take care. I'm Dr. Shawn Baker. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.